All right, Media Day. We are talking private schools here in the Houston area, and am pleased to be joined with the Kincaid High School head coach, Nathan Larned. Coach, first of all, I suppose you got a championship ring on that finger, so I congratulate you on last year's championship, and what did that kind of mean for you and your program?
It meant a lot. We knew we lost, 24, 25 seniors the year before, that COVID year that we went undefeated. And so we knew we had a lot of holes to fill. We knew we had some top end talent, that everybody kind of thought that, okay, well then they should be really good. But we're looking at it, like coaches do, and saw that there was a lot of issues. And so fortunately we had a really strong sophomore class that jumped up there and helped us. And they were, and very fortunate for us, some of them were ready to play right away. And so that they were able to get in there, get that experience, understand varsity football. And then by the time we got to conference, they were more a part of the system, not just being good athletes on a football field. They understood their role, and that kind of helped us start to gel. The young guys grew up and started putting it together at the right time.
Last year, you guys went 9-2, and you came up to DFW and played at Episcopal School and lost to them by 10. I was actually there shooting that game.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What did you learn from that game? Because when you ended up playing them in the playoffs, I mean, it was almost a no contest there. You got them by a couple, 2-3 scores. So what did you learn from the first outing you used in the championship?
Number one, get number 6 the ball. I think I looked at the stats after the game up in Dallas, and I think Dylan Bell had touched the ball maybe 4 or 5 times. And Cam Henry was coming off of a foot injury. So we didn't do a good enough job. Bottom line, we just didn't do a good enough job getting the playmakers to football. And then we didn't have a good plan for getting off the field on third down. Their quarterback was a very good athlete. And, he got hurt in that championship game, which, we all know helped us out, especially on defense, because he created so much with his legs. And we get to deal with him again this year. But so up in Dallas, we just couldn't get off the field. We would be holding them. We'd get them to 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6. And all of a sudden he'd make a play, or one of their receivers would make a good play. They just had a bunch of good athletes, and they just found ways to keep the ball in there keep the football on offense. End of the day, bottom line, get the playmakers the football. Don't be a dummy as a coach, like I probably was up in Dallas, and then get off the field on 3rd and 4th down. Those are the 2 big differences.
You mentioned the playmakers. We had a chance to do a story with the Bell brothers last year for our show, and great kids, love talking to them. And you certainly got Dylan the ball that championship game. Boy, did he go off. But you don't have that luxury this year, but you do have Micah coming back, and I have a feeling all eyes are going to be on him. He's one of the faster athletes, not only in the private school ranks, but in all the state of Texas. Talk a little bit about how you might be able to use Micah this year. I'm assuming how he ran a kickoff return right at me last year. So I know you probably use him in the return game, but he's a big-time cornerback. We see him on offense. Will we see him everywhere?
Yeah, I think so. That would be our challenge, is to, kind of like we did with Dylan, is to find ways to get Micah the ball in space as many ways as possible, to where you can't load the box or you can't bracket him when he splits out. I think that's something that we haven't shown yet, that we'd probably like to do more, is getting him out of the backfield and using his speed down the field. And we have a couple other guys that we think can help us with that as well. So it's going to come down to how good are the guys around him. We've got only one other receiver that's a returning starter, but we got some young guys that got some experience that we're hoping can take that next step. And if they're productive and our quarterback is doing his job, then that's going to make Mike a whole lot better and easier for us to game plan with him. And then defensively, he's kind of our eraser on one side, where it's like, all right, hey, we got to use him on offense because he's the most explosive guy we have. But then, defensively, we know we can kind of put him over there and eliminate a guy. And then he's also smart enough to do, to do some stuff with coverage-wise, where we don't have to just man him up, and use his athleticism to go take away space as well. Because that's scary. Like when you see him locked up man-to-man, you're kind of like, okay, well, that's gone. But when you see him standing in space and know that he can break on a ball, that takes away more of a side of a field. So it's kind of like, we got to be smart and mix them up with that. But it's really going to come down to, does our quarterback take the next step? We think it will. And then how do these other guys that were sophomores that were good contributors but didn't have to step up and make the big time plays, are they capable of doing that now and filling that void that's left by Dylan and Cam and Alex and all those guys?
That was gonna lead me to my next question. You talked about playing a lot of sophomores, especially quarterback Capibianco. Sorry, I had to throw it. I just wanted to say the name. But being able to play him all, I'm assuming he started all 11 games for the most part last year. Having that experience as a sophomore, that can only help at the leadership position. Talk about how you hope the sophomores will progress into their junior year. I know you talked a little bit about it, but maybe a little bit more.
Well, he was so Capo is a very intelligent football player, hardworking. He's already put on 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason. Just gets football, loves football. So now it's, instead of just kind of being out there and do as we say as a sophomore, it's kind of giving him a little bit more leeway to allow him to use his football IQ. And, and kind of just, he's got that little it about him where he knows where to go with the ball or sees something on front side or back side, and also has a little slipperiness out of the pocket. He's got the best pocket presence I've ever seen as a freshman back then, and then also this past year as a sophomore. So staying in that and, getting bigger and stronger, using his legs a little bit more. He's sneaky athletic. I don't want to say that in an interview because now he's going to know that I actually think that. But he thinks he's a starting free safety next year anyhow. But, so yeah, I mean, gotta give it to him and trust him to manage it out there because we're going to need him to take that next step.
Let's talk a little bit about the SPC this year. What are you looking for through the other teams? I know ESD is probably going to be just as competitive, but how are you going to look to survey through that conference?
Yeah, I think it just gets tougher, right? So you've got ESD with 22 plus returning seniors next year, including, the best quarterback in the conference, the best tight end in the conference. They're going to have to, fill some holes in that D line, but I imagine that they've always found a way to get guys that can do that. So we know what we're going to get with those guys. They're going to be at the top. Episcopal is always just going to be bigger, faster, stronger. They had to play a lot of young guys this past year, and so we know that they're going to be better. St. John's, they took us to the brim last year, and they were young. They've got to replace their quarterback, but they've got a good young quarterback that's going to jump in there and take that for them. And then they've got a couple dynamic playmakers that are young that are, going to be another year older and that much better. Probably, one of, if not the best player in the league as a sophomore. And then you got St. Mark's, who they've got a new head coach last year, and he did a tremendous job. And you can just kind of see that shift in culture and see how much more disciplined they are and how much more fun they have playing football. Like, their offense is more explosive, it's creative. So just the league across the board at the 4A level is just going to be tougher. There's no game where you go out there and you're like, all right, hey, we're going to be able to get some backups in this game. It's every single game is going to have to, you're going to have to bring your best.
I guess finally, SPC, obviously, this, but it's a lot different from UIL and TAPS, where you have to get honed in on what your team is doing right away. It's not like you're going for the top 4 spots. You got to get the top 2. And your championship game is right after the season's in. So how important is it for you to schedule competitive non-conference games and get your team, we got to get dialed in because we're not going for top 4, we're going for top 2.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We got to schedule people that are going to tell us the truth about ourselves. We're not scheduling people to get wins or get stats. We got to put people out there that when we watch play people out there that when we watch the film, it's legitimate feedback. So we're playing good athletes with good schemes that instead of, like kids make a play like, oh, I did really well. Well, no, you didn't. You didn't shuffle your feet here, or you played high or whatever it is. You got away with some stuff. But when you're playing good football teams like Little Cypress, Mauriceville, we're going to open up with Jasper. We're going out to New Orleans to play Archbishop Shaw, St. Thomas, Second Medicine. When you're playing these teams in non-conference, they tell you the truth about yourself, which is good. So now come back, get that feedback. We obviously want to win when you go in a competitive environment, but we build our schedule to make us better and get ready for conference. And like I said, to tell the truth about ourselves. So when we get to conference, we should know who we are and what we're about. And then you get in there and those guys have got 6-7 games of film on you and they kind of tell you some more truths about yourself. So that's the fun part about it. But yeah, you got to be ready to go. And I think in the past, you've always had a game or two in there to where if you slip up, you go, okay, hey, let's find a couple of games to get ourselves together before we play another big opponent. I don't think you can do that this year. I think this year, every single team is going to be competitive. So if you slip up, you're playing for your playoff life the next game right out the gate.
Well, good luck, Coach. I appreciate you joining us today. Good luck on that going back to back. And we look forward to seeing some of your games next year.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.